a term, so this is a binomial. This is a term, this is a term, so this is a binomial. So if I were to ask you to simplify this, you would start by distributing both numbers that are on the left, or both terms that are on the left, I should say, by both terms that are on the right. Okay, sometimes people refer to it as FOIL. I just like to think of it as distributing. So when I do that, when I distribute on the left, I have x times x, which gives me x squared, and then I have x times 2, which gives me positive 2x. Then for the 8, I have 8 times x, which gives me 8x. And then I have 8 times 2, which gives me positive 16. Well, now I want to simplify this, so I'm going to combine like terms. And I have positive 2x and positive 8x, which gives me positive 10x. And so then this whole thing simplifies to x squared plus 10x plus 16. Well, hopefully you recognize that this is a quadratic function in standard form. So quadratic functions in standard form are the same thing as two binomials that have been multiplied by each other. You can factor it out. You can kind of work in reverse. So we multiplied the two binomials to get the quadratic function. Well, we're going to go backwards, where I want to figure out, if I give you the quadratic function, what two binomials can be multiplied to get the quadratic function. So here's what I mean. If we have this quadratic function here, x squared plus 6x plus 9, I want to figure out what two binomials. Now, just to give you a heads up, since we're just starting this, because of this x squared right here, I know it's going to be x something times x something, because that's how I'm going to get my x squared. That's all that we're at right now, okay? That's going to change later, but for now, this is all that we're doing. But now I want to figure out whether I'm adding or subtracting and what number goes here, and then what am I adding or subtracting and what number goes here. So I want to figure out what the exact binomial is. So what you do is you look at your constant at the end. So I'm looking at the 9. And I'm going to look at all the factor pairs that I can multiply to get 9. And so I can multiply 1 and 9 to get 9, or you can say 9 and 1. The order doesn't matter. Or I can multiply 3 and 3 to get 9. Now, the tricky part here is now deciding which factor pair we're going to use, because we want to pick a factor pair that when we either add or subtract the numbers, we get positive 6 in the middle, okay? So again, you take the last number, the constant, you find out what the factor pairs are, and then you look at your factor pairs and decide which of these two pairs can I add together to get the 6, the positive 6. So there's no way that I could add or subtract 1 and 9 to get 6, so I know that's not going to work. But I know that if I have positive 3 and positive 3, that that's going to equal positive 6. So these are the factor pairs that I'm going to use. So if I try that, if I try positive 3 and positive 3, so x plus 3 times x plus 3, well, let's multiply it out and see what we get. All right, x times x is x squared. X times 3 is 3x. Then I have 3 times x, which is 3x, and 3 times 3, which is 9. So now I'm going to combine like terms, positive 3x plus 3x, and so I get x squared plus 6x plus 9, which is exactly what we started off with. So the answer here, I kind of made it look like that was the answer, sorry. The answer here is x plus 3 times x plus 3. These are the binomials that we would multiply each other by to get the quadratic function that we started off with. All right, so let's try another one. Here we have x squared minus 13x plus 12. So I'm going to list my factor pairs for 12. So I have 1 and 12, I have 2 and 6, I have 3 and 4, and that's it. Okay. Now what's tricky here is if you notice you've got a positive sign here. So that means either I'm multiplying two numbers together that are positive or two numbers together that are negative. But then I also notice that I have a negative sign here. So that makes it a little bit different. So you want to see which of your factor pairs down here in the bottom you can get to negative 13. Well, if I do negative 1 plus negative 12, that gives me negative 13. So that tells me that my binomial is going to be x minus 1 times x minus 12. Or if you wrote x minus 12 times x minus 1, it's the same thing. It doesn't have to be the exact same order. Oops. All right, so let me show you how that works when you multiply it. So we do x times x, which is x squared, x times negative 12, which is negative 12x, negative 1 times x, which is negative 1x, or negative x, and then negative 1 times negative 12, which is positive 12. So now when I come and I combine like terms, I have negative 12x minus x. This gives me x squared minus 13x plus 12. So you can see, because I ended up with what I have here, these are the two binomials that I multiply to get this quadratic function that we started off with. All right, let's do one more example. So what I notice here is I notice that I have a negative sign here. So I'm still going to list out my factor pairs. My factor pairs are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. So I'm still listing my factor pairs. But what I notice is because this sign is negative, that tells me that the signs are going to be different here, meaning either I got a positive 1 and a negative 6, or it could be vice versa, like like negative 1 and positive 6. I know the signs are different because I have this negative here. So I know I'm multiplying two numbers that have a different sign. Well, I know there's no way I can use the 1 and the 6 together to get a 1 in the middle. Like I can't add or subtract 1 and 6 together in any way to get 1. However, I notice that I can do that with the 2 and the 3. And because this is positive right here, this tells me it's going to be negative 2 and positive 3, because negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. So my binomials are going to be x minus 2 times x plus 3. And just to check our work, just to make sure we did it right, we're going to multiply it out. X times x is x squared. X times positive 3 is positive 3x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. And then negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And so I'm going to combine like terms, and I have x squared plus x minus 6.